Hello, everybody. Welcome to CyberKriya, the show where we talk about enterprise security, cybersecurity, the wisdom, the thought leaders in our industry. We have pleasure to invite, I would say, the amazing leaders in last few episodes. And today there is an expert and leader whom probably I used to read his blog when I was like since like this goes back to 20 years, if not more, or maybe more. I used to refer his blog for things I was doing on the SAP security and GRC world. He's an avid author. He has written 3 books, if not more. He's seen as an expert in our GRC, SAP GRC space. Without further ado, let me welcome Mr. Raghu Boddu. Raghu, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav.
So, Raghu, before we try to know more about you, if you don't mind, maybe introduce yourself for the audience who may not know you.
Sure. Yeah, I think folks in SAP security and GRC space, most of them know about me. They might be reading just like you, my blogs, articles, and then, some of the SAP videos that they have gone through in the past. But just to quickly give an intro, my name is Raghu. I'm based out of India with about 25 close years of experience in security and GRC domain with about 28, 29 years of experience overall. I started with R2, when it comes to security, where I still remember the screens, of creating users and profiles. There were, at that point in time, there is no concept of roles. So all we know is profiles. That is when I started. And after that, with various activities that I was performing as a consultant in SAP security and GRC space, I've got a lot of challenges in the day-to-day activities, and I feel there is a real need for me to introduce some easy to perform tips or articles, and then develop some tools or kind of small solutions as well to address various requirements. That is how I started. So last 20 plus years is where I worked with all kind of SAP versions, starting from, as I said, R2 till S4 HANA, Rise, Grow, including the cloud systems, and then starting from Versa till SAP GRC, and then now getting on to GRC 2026.
Thank you, Raghu. And I think with the experience, and I think you have seen the entire, I would say, I had just heard Versa, right? So I don't know how much like the new folks would even know about the Versa, right? So you kind of have been lived through R2 word, have seen the progression in the SAP security and GRC space, right? From Versa to, I think, going on GRC on Java, I think 5.1, whatever the 5.1, 5.2,
5.3, yeah.
and then
5.1 was there for
5.3,
some time. I think
and then
5.3 is what people know.
SAP moved back to the ABAP like GRC 10 and 12, and the future GRC and the IEG word, right? And
Yes.
so I want to know more about you. So I think you mentioned about, I feel like you had some developer background today. How does Mr. Raghu become Raghu of the Raghu today, right? So maybe if you want to maybe go back to like, how did you start it? Like this was like you were into SAP word or you were into some different, I want to know more about that. Like, okay, out of college or whatever you have been doing on that time. So if you can take us back to that 20-year journey, that would be good, Raghu, for
Yeah.
our audience.
Now, out of college, I actually joined a knowledge process outsourcing company supporting North American customers. Work for companies like Compaq, HP, and that is my first job, wherein I was like supporting customers on various technical related stuff. And that is when I got into SAP. When I started in SAP, like creating users and all those stuff, when I was in HP, I didn't even know that I'm working on a SAP system. So that is a very new, when you go back to 99 times, right? Not many people know about SAP, and that is where I started, right? I mean, that is exactly where between 99 to 2001, 2003, that is where SAP really picked up well. And then, everyone is speaking about bases. When it comes to technical areas, everyone was suggesting, okay, you can be a better guy in basis security. Security was not a real, what do you say, kind of a core module at that point in time. It's part of basis, right? So everyone says, yeah, why can't you try basis? Because you know how to work on various technologies. I was doing kind of Windows based installations, tweakings, and then you kind of server management, infrastructure management, and all those IT related activities. And that pulled me, one of my close associate has suggested me to get into SAP basis. And that is when I came to know that I was already working in SAP security space. But my initial journey started with basis module. So for a couple of years, I was a basis consultant working on all kind of basis activities, starting from monitoring till starting SAP, stopping SAP, doing all background job related activities and all those stuff. And I still remember that is the time where I first worked on a migration or upgrade project, which is R3 4.6 C, which is R3, like a three-tier architecture, and have a very robust landscape, and then all new functionalities that were introduced by SAP in 4.6C. So that was really amazing. And fortunately, that is the project where I've got into core SAP security activities. Okay.
Okay.
So that is
So you were
when
like a basis guy, and then started
I was
moving
a
towards
basis guy.
security on that
Yes.
time. Okay.
Yeah. And then I moved to security in that project. I think that is somewhere around 2001. And from there, I was completely in security. And, slowly started into SAP GRC, not GRC, Varsa, and then SAP GRC there.
And you have written numerous blogs. As I was saying, I used to read your blog, and now there is some book, right? You want to talk about your books, Raghu,
Yeah.
on the GRC
So
space, right?
before probably talking about my books, I would like to add couple of things on what made me to write the blogs. Right, I'm just not a core SAP security or basis guy. I also know the coding part, how to code, ABAP and all. But more than code, I'm good at logic. I know how, you, in case if there is a problem, how is that we have to simplify it, and what kind of customizations can be done in the system. So I can go debug, identify where, what is the enhancement point that we have to establish and how to simplify that particular activity. Right. So that is what really helped me in writing some interesting blogs. And, if you look at, I, if you look at probably about 30 to 40 automations were recommended by me and then adapted by SAP at a later stage. When I say adapted, enhancements that I've did, automations that I've did in SAP GRC, they were available as an additional features or capabilities in the latest version of SAP GRC, which I introduced long back for the SAP GRC customers, right? And that is how, looking at my blogs, the way I write in simple English, maybe I should ask you how do you rate the blogs in terms of the complexity, understanding stuff and all, right? So some of my known connects recommended me, like, okay, why can't you author some book, because the way you explain, the way you write things and give examples is really interesting. So that helped me, triggered me to start authoring a book. The first book what I published is GRC Access Control, which really took a lot of time for me. I think I spent almost 11 months to write the entire book, which is about 600 pages altogether, which speaks about all the components of SAP GRC and then certain automations, tweaks. I mean, it covers a lot on MSMP, BRF, all these things, which are, I feel, is the gray space even today. A lot of people doesn't know about how to best utilize the MSMP and BRF rules. So that is where my book has a lot of examples, real use cases that can be utilized. And after access control, then I started my second book, which is process control. I did that along with one of the co-author by name Ramakrishna. Then there is a third book, which is not a physical hard copy, but it is a e-byte on SAP Cloud IAG, which explains what is Cloud IAG, because it is all new. And then a lot of people don't know what is Cloud IAG. Is it a replacement to access control, or is it a different product? What is that they exactly, or when is that they exactly have to use Cloud IAG and all? So that is where I introduced the e-byte along with another co-author by name Bhagya. So two of us spent time in authoring Cloud IAG E-Byte, and which I think helped a lot of people in understanding the uh, what Cloud IAG brings, the features, the benefits of it, and the comparison between GRC access control and Cloud IAG and all. So that is how it started, and then ended with 3 different titles.
So I was fortunate enough to write a book as well with my co-author JP, Cybersecurity for SAP. We actually met in SAP Insider, right, Raghu? And I think we took or maybe
Yes.
Sapphire. I think it was Sapphire,
No, it
right?
was SAP Insider.
SAP Insider in Vegas, right? Then we took
Vegas.
some cool pictures with GRC, your book, and then our cybersecurity book, because I feel like, um, again, from the audience or from a customer perspective, right? If I'm a customer going on S4 transformation right now, right? GRC would be the core, right? Either you would have SAP GRC access control or process control or both, right? I think you would at least have access control, right? If not process control, and maybe IEG as well, right? So if I'm a customer going on S4 transformation, Raghu, is it fair to say if I just buy your book, all 3 books, I will have all the resources available to me to make sure I implement GRC with the best practice? Is it right to say that, Raghu?
Yes, I mean, it is just more than best practice. Like it is just not a Bible for you, for implementing, GRC, access control and process control. It is beyond it. It speaks about each and every module, each and every option. It's kind of a comprehensive guide, right? Which tells you the benefits of it, the features of each of the module, how you can utilize, when it will be utilized, what are the use cases that you need to understand. Like, okay, if you have to define a custom risk, when is that you have to define a custom risk? How do you define a custom risk? And how do you evaluate the properties of the risk? Like, okay, you want to make it a high, medium or critical. What makes you understand that what determines to make the risk as a critical risk, for example, right? So it navigates you, it tells you the right approach, makes you understand each and every concept in access control. And as I said, it speaks about a lot of automations. I think I covered almost 10 to 15 different automations, what you can implement using MSMP, BRF, and then customizing your application to limit or implement additional validations to ensure that okay, your system is performing the way it should perform. Right? You can just embed all your business process into the GRC system. I think it pretty covers majority of the things. But again, on top of that, for example, when I authored the access control book, there were some limitations in the emergency access management. Then there were a lot of design changes by SAP. That is where I also authored one article on SAP Press site itself, wherein you understand what 10 new features that were added in emergency access management. I mean, I just continued on sharing that information, and after that, I'm also sharing a lot of information on my personal Substack. For example, yesterday I posted one article which details the difference between enterprise edition of Cloud IAG as well as integration edition, because this is a common question that we normally get from people, like, okay, which edition I should go for. When I get access to SAP IAG, I should not go back to the customer and ask, like, okay, what is your SAP IAG edition? Even from a consultant side, like the GRC consultant side, he should be able to understand how to determine the version of it, right? So that is where I give a lot of inputs on additional information on whatever is covered, whatever is not covered in my book, and cover those additional points in my blog so that my readers are always up to date with the topics.
Thank you, Raghu. And one of the reason I think the book we wrote, the Cybersecurity for SAP book, we did, I think, highlight in that book, right, for our word, the SAP word, right? I think we have been, I would say, the GRC product and the practice and the experts and leaders we have, like how many GRC experts we have around the world, right? We feel like we probably have maybe the mature GRC product if you just go out in the industry, right? And thanks to Jasveer and for giving the SAP GRC, I'm trying to, I think, not trying, I think I will get him. My daughter is saying, don't use trying, I think, yeah. So I would get him for sure on my podcast, the godfather of the SAP GRC, Jasveer. But do you feel like our GRC because just it's been there for almost 2 decades. Like we have most mature product understanding or even the compliance needs, the controls we do. Like, what's your take on that? Because I feel like that's our strength. Like we may be lacking
Mhm.
on the cybersecurity part of it in the SAP world,
Yes.
but the SAP GRC, the whole identity, the role-based security, the least privileged access, and the task-based, the SODs, the emergency access process. Like if you go outside of SAP world, you may not find like they will have different tools. I don't think I have seen the maturity we have in our side just for the GRC. So what's your take on that, Raghu?
Yeah. So, I mean, my experience, what I see, if you go back to, I mean, I think we both experienced Versa solution as well as the early products of SAP GRC, access control, process control, and risk management, right? At least both of us know what is there 20 years ago. So if I really look at what it was 20 years back and what it is today, in terms of the application and the capabilities, there is no great change in terms of the capabilities. The way you run risk analysis, 20 years ago in Versa or GRC 5.3 is the same as you're doing it today. The way you're using emergency access or firefighter ID 20 years ago is the same today as well. Maybe there are some future, feature enhancements, what you can see, the way you are working, the way you are logging in, the way you're reviewing things, there could be some change, but actual product needs a real shift because of the corporate frauds that are happening today, right? The cybersecurity incidents that are happening today. 20 years ago, there is no data protection, right? No one is worried about your data, how it is going out of your system. Now, do we have those kind of controls embedded in SAP GRC? Do we have that kind of rule set which says when I perform a risk analysis, does it tell me that, hey, you have these many users who have got access to PII data? You have these 20 users who have got access to critical business data. Even that is a risk to me, right? Unfortunately, access control even today stuck at identifying segregation of duties, which is conflict between a transaction code and conflict between an authorization object or conflict between two, fiery apps. But we are not going beyond that. So if you ask me, what is actual risk today for enterprises? If we take the same conflicting of authorizations, I might give wider access to the users because there are a lot of connected systems. It is just not SAP anymore. There are multiple systems connected to my SAP. Do I have an opportunity to configure a real cross system risk? Let's say between my Salesforce and SAP, between my Salesforce and Ariba? I don't have that. Typical risk analysis, till the way you manage things, mitigations or the remediations or your rule sets, everything needs a real shift in terms of how you identify risk, right? Um, 15, 20 years back, GRC is a solution which probably makes, when I say, okay, I have SAP GRC in my landscape, that is, I used to see that as a proud thing, right? Having GRC is a proud thing. But today it has become common thing, right? If you don't have GRC, probably look at like, okay, maybe you don't know the importance of risk, you don't know the importance of, you're probably not managing it in a right way. But what in case what if uh, we really need to identify the real risks? The existing GRC is not enough. Existing GRC, especially the access control and process control, is very limited to specific controls and doesn't have the real capabilities of identifying risks. I mean, my intention is not to maybe get one product down here. My intention is to tell what the real world is and where we are with the GRC solutions. Be it SAP GRC or any product, any GRC product which is there in the market that doesn't have all these capabilities, which can identify risks at a level where now AI is going, right? Using AI, you can do hundreds of new types of frauds, wherein my GRC is not capable enough to tackle or identify or remediate or mitigate or stop these many frauds or risks in the system. Just to probably wrap up, what I see is there is a huge demand, huge need of a better GRC solution for any kind of ERP that we are using.
Okay. So you're saying we have a GRC product which kind of maybe just limit itself just to on the more on the SOD side, more on the SOX perspective. And I think that's one of the reason we always say we want to say SAP cybersecurity, like go beyond traditional security,
Go
that
beyond.
whole
Yes.
financial risk. That's what we have been caring, right? This financial risk, the SOX, the SODs, right? Think about data security risk. You talk about PI data. You talk about the infosec, the cyber risk, right? And there are different tools now, but maybe I'm with you on that. Like we have to somehow either adapt AI into the whole solution, also integrate different solutions into one, right? This should not be like you have different GRC for just doing this, then you have this tool for doing this, right? And they all should integrate very well. And maybe AI, like if you ask me, like one thing I've been trying to explore, right? Like why like we need a better, like people saying AI is all disruptive and everybody's trying to do some AI, but where is AI for us, right? And the SAP security professionals helping our and the customers too, right? So I'm still kind of looking for that. I know that there's a lot of transformation, a lot of innovation happening, but maybe we are early. My point was more about like we still have like a um experts, and at least like somebody like you and somebody like who's saying we have a GRC which have been there for 2 decades, but now we have to go beyond. But I was just seeing on the LinkedIn and other places, like if you just go to non-SAP world, the cloud world, I don't even see the basics being done there from GRC perspective. They don't have like a way of doing what we do, like the access request process, putting everything with a risk analysis part, checking access. So you have this and you have this, you can't have both, right? I don't even see
Correct.
that. Like if you just talk about the AWS word, I think there was a person or leader, I think he wrote a GRC engineering book for AWS. And that was like for us. And we were talking like, they're saying like, this is all like, they just rely on SOC reports and they just rely on few things there and say, we are all good. But at least we go beyond in our side more than the other world is going. But I completely
Very
agree
true.
with you. Like we have to go now. What is our next, right? We just cannot be complacent enough saying, okay, we just have a GRC, we just put access control, process control, everything is good. Everything is not good. And one of the reason we did that whole cybersecurity for SAP book was like, yeah, okay, you have to go beyond what we do on GRC side for SAP. So
Yeah.
that's really good take, Raghu.
I read a synopsis of your book. I haven't got through a chance to go through the entire book, but I strongly feel that is the need of the hour. So risk management is beyond typical GRC today. I'll give you one other example just to make sure we understand, or we agree on the point. When we started using SAP GRC, I was told like, okay, if any user has a conflicting authorization, then it is a risk and we should not give conflicting authorization. Like a person who has authorization to create or manage vendor should not have authorization to create a PO or release a PO or release a payment, right? These are typical segregation of duties or conflicts that we see. Now, what GRC rule says or what GRC recommends is to segregate this, to separate this authorization to two different people. Like Gaurav has authorization to maintain vendors and Raghu has authorization to release a payment, right? So your GRC stops there. The moment you break this, give this authorization to do two different people, GRC is happy because there is no risk. Well, that is where cybersecurity comes. What in case if I know Gaurav's username password logs into the SAP system, create a fraudulent vendor in the system, and then log out and log in with my credentials and release a payment to that vendor. Still, these are two different usernames. There is no segregation of duty. So where exactly access control or process control is tracking these kind of incidents? That only happens with a cybersecurity way of looking at, and then with those particular rules, you will be able to identify, for example, are these two activities are happening from the same terminal ID? I mean, there are various patterns that you can identify and then flag some potential fraudulent activity which is happening in the system. And this is truly beyond SAP GRC. And that is where cybersecurity takes the vital role. And I still feel there is a huge need to adapt these kind of cybersecurity rules, to ensure the risk management is proper and the fraud management is also embedded into that.
So just for audience, I haven't paid or I haven't requested Raghu to talk about cybersecurity. I was expecting him to. I think when I was doing the whole research, I think the AI gave like a GRC guru. But I love it because I think this is what we need when our GRC experts, a GRC guru who have lived this whole GRC journey and have been helping customers for more than 2 decades, not saying it's good we have a GRC, it's good we check for SOD, but the example you gave, right? But how do I make sure, even if you have a different users and with different access, there's no SOD there, but how do I ensure, like I said, if I know a password and I just, the whole non-repudiation piece, right? I'm making sure the updates are done by the person who they really are. It's not like say bad guy or a insider. And how do we connect these logs and the terminal ID and the IP address and whatever information we have, which we have on the enterprise side, but the GRC
Mhm.
is disconnected. GRC is sitting in a whole SAP ecosystem, right? It's not feeding into my whatever SIM solution, whatever logging we have, and there's no controls there to even go that deep, right?
Yeah.
So I just love it, Raghu, and I think that's where we need to join. And we always say we need everybody to solve this problem, and I just love it. I'm just thinking and then thinking in my
Yeah.
mind like, okay, but yeah, I
No, when
haven't
I
asked.
asked this question, to many of my customers or known people, right, who claim that okay, they are also GRC experts, subject matter experts, and all. I ask the same question. Okay, how do you identify this? Right, there is no segregation of duty. There is no risk from a GRC standpoint. What is the next step? But still, there is a risk in the system, right? It is beyond risk. It is a fraud. Now, that is where we need to build additional controls. Now, GRC is beyond the application. SAP GRC is the application. GRC as the word is beyond that. Maybe 5% of the required controls can be established using solutions like SAP GRC. In an enterprise, 95% of other controls must be established, like as I said, to ensure that you're properly managing your risks and fraud cases. Now, I also ask one more question. A lot of people say that we are not worried. We have single sign-on enabled or we have two-factor authentication enabled, right? Even today, there are various ways to, skip your two MFAs. There are various malicious actors that can be deployed in your application, in your local PC, on your laptop, and then skip the 2FA. I was just reading one of the article yesterday wherein, okay, in the US, you have, especially where you park the car, you have QR codes wherein you scan and then pay for the car parking and then, you just go ahead, right? So there are people who are actually changing those QR codes also. And the moment you scan, it captures all your information. There is when you in a hurry, when you park your vehicle, you will quickly try to scan, do the payment and go. So they get access to all your data. Question here is it is just not your personal information. It is just not the money which is there in your bank account. Today, people are using Fieri app on the mobile devices. Now, what in case if the threat actor gains access to your mobile device completely from using your mobile device? What in case if he gets into your enterprise because there is access of all the Fieri apps on your mobile phone? Now, what is that I have to do to ensure that I'm protecting my SAP instances or my enterprise systems, my personal data, data of my critical business data, and then PII data of all my vendors to ensure that I'm adhering to the data protection requirements. As I said, Gaurav, there is a real need to revisit, the GRC in an enterprise. My strong recommendation to people is don't stick to what SAP GRC is offering or what third-party GRC solutions are offering. You need to think beyond because the threat landscape is bigger than what you are thinking today.
Okay, so yeah, I'm in US and I do scan QR code when I go and do some parking. So
You
I
have
was
to be a
thinking,
little
okay, so
careful
I
now.
think so most of the time they have like painted QR codes. It's
Correct.
like something you can't just simply, a bad guy just come in and change it. But yeah, the risk is real with the QR code, right? You go to restaurants now, they have QR code. And we even like, I think there has to be like, you can't even scan any QR code, right? But there's no way for you to verify, right? This has not been changed and you kind of the trust thing, you go to a restaurant or you assume that. But yeah, the QR code is, I do agree with you on that, Raghu. And you said like we have to go beyond what we have with either SAP GRC or any GRC solution we are using, right? And from enterprise side. So if I'm a customer and I keep going back to the whole S4 because that's the whole transformation which is happening in our industry right now. So if I'm
Yes.
going on S4 transformation, Raghu, maybe we should do like another deep dive. I think as I requested, like just on the GRC and IEG part, right? And the start about landscape and the risk and the threat landscape and the saying the landscape has changed now and we have to go beyond the traditional security and GRC. So I would have a S4, maybe on Rise, a PC
Mm-hmm.
model. I would have a BTP, which is gonna be the place where all the custom, all
Yes.
the transformation, innovation, all the AI work is happening. I may have a SaaS solutions like Ariba and Success Factors and others too, right in my landscape. So as a customer, what's like if you go to a customer in that whole journey, like how do you help them design not just the GRC piece and maybe expand more like, okay, as you said, like we have to go beyond that. So I as a customer or a customer should start in that whole path of building different policies, controls, and then technology just one part of the problem, right? It's about the people,
Correct.
process, and technology. The process, the policy level, the whole governed function, and you have to have policy, then you have to have controls, then you have to have a technology or a process there, right? And the whole security baseline, the going beyond GRC word. So what's like, how do you uh, design or like what's like how you do it? Like if you have to do it, then you have all the power, you have all the money, you have all the budget, but let's do in the right way. So how you would start it or how you would do the security implementation, including every piece, not just the GRC
Yep.
piece.
Yeah. So again, I normally start asking a question to my customer like, do you have SAP GRC or any GRC solution? We are using SAP GRC because that is where what we were working from the last couple of decades. So by default, I say SAP GRC, but any GRC solution as such. Okay. Now, any customer says, yes, I have GRC or SAP GRC solution or alternative solution, third party solution. I immediately tell him that, yeah, I think you have one solution which is good to have, but there are a lot of must to have configurations that you have to do. Implementing GRC itself doesn't arrest everything, right? That is a normal myth what people have. Like, I have SAP GRC, I don't have to worry. I have automated some processes, my auditors are happy, right? The whole purpose is not to satisfy auditors. The purpose is to secure your system. When I say secure your SAP system, what is that you have to do? SAP itself has a lot of capabilities that can be enabled today. I'll give you another example. Today we are speaking about data protection, data privacy, all these things. Any personal data or critical vendor data should not go out. What in case if someone downloads all the payroll information from the HR system and then uploads it on the dark web, right? You might have a control which is developed, which tracks downloads, and then, even in process control, you might establish a custom control which tracks the downloads and then, immediately sends a notification and alert saying that Raghu has downloaded so and so critical data. But what you're doing is a postmortem, right? You're not stopping it. You're not killing that process. So we need to establish certain solutions to kill that. Like, for example, in S4 HANA, there were, if I am not wrong, there are close to 16,000, 20,000 remote enabled function calls, function modules, RFMs, right? SAP is giving a beautiful solution called UCON, Unified Connectivity. I'm sure you ask this question to 100 customers, 99 of them says that I am not aware of such a solution, which is bundled in the standard SAP, which will secure your system from triggering remote function modules. Like, from outside, you can find out who is hitting these function modules, which applications are hitting these function modules. Then you can block them, you can allow them, you can whitelist them. There are lots of features available in the Yukon itself, which is a fantastic solution. Not implementing those kind of solutions or configuring those kind of what do you say, bundled solutions, but then I'm looking at something outside to protect my system. Similar way, there is the one other free offering from SAP called as read access log. Now, what I say, for example, I established a control in my process control or some third party application wherein if anyone is downloading, maybe my SIM solution tracks it. If the download is more than 5 MB, it will block it and then, it sends a notification. SIM and SOAR when I use it. But what in case if I am a HR person, I have access to HR master, I open the HR master data, and then trying to make note of each of the critical information on a piece of paper or trying to take a picture on my phone. How do you arrest it? How do you identify that? So for that, SAP has provided a solution called read access logs. So you will be able to see how much time a person is spending on critical data on a screen, like, okay, Raghu spent 30 minutes on critical HR data. It can give a lot of information on what is that I'm reading. It is just not print. It is just not access. It is beyond that. So how many of the customers have implemented? I mean, probably you're a cybersecurity guru now. Now I should ask you, how many customers do you think have implemented these kind of solutions in your known network?
Yeah, I don't think I want to. Yeah, I don't want to tell it, but I think you summed it pretty well, Raghu. Basics, right? Before you
Basics.
just go and buy the next shiny tool, security baseline, which SAP provides, all these different tools SAP provides. We did cover all these modules or tools in our book as well. But I can't agree more. I think I can just only laugh and say, yes, I think maybe they will not tell you in a public, but yeah, if you just talk them without camera, and I think you would know it's not being
Yeah.
done. So you're right.
Right. So a lot of people think that having a first line of defense like firewalls and then access points and then DNS will make them secure. No one can enter their system. But then, it is easy for, I always tell this, don't think that attacker is always outside. It can be an insider also. And 80% of the attacks happens with the insider. I mean, I think maybe I sound like I'm speaking more on cybersecurity, but still I'm speaking about GRC because all this comes as a part of your risk management. Managing risk is just not at a T code level, not just at an authorization object level. It is beyond that. If I do a bottom down, I mean, maybe I'm 20 years back, I started at identifying segregation of duties at a T code level, authorization object level, but it has moved to the next levels. Now, user level, what kind of risks you have, right? Beyond transaction codes. What can happen, as I earlier mentioned, if I know your username, password, I can log in and then perform an activity, right? How I can secure? That is where probably some percentage single sign-on will help, right? Or there could be other solutions that can be implemented or controls that can be implemented to ensure that you are not logging in from different terminals. Your ID can be binded onto a specific terminal. What is beyond that at a data level, right? So you need to identify all the dimensions of, protecting your SAP system from a risk management standpoint, and govern it in a right way. That is what all GRC speaks about. Again, as I said, don't limit yourself to SAP GRC. SAP GRC is a tool to automate certain processes in the system. It doesn't cover everything. So you have to think beyond that.
Again, disclaimer, guys. I haven't requested or pay Raghu.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, it
and
is
this is
just
like
out
my
of my
dream, right?
experience.
Yeah, this is my dream, right? Yeah, and that's what we need, right? We need the GRC guru, GRC experts, and the way you are speaking, you're talking about risk management. And as I rightly said, right, GRC, there's a false sense of security because we have been like so focused on few pieces as to make auditor happy, make compliance, SOX compliance, and financial compliance thing. But now time is now, as the landscape has changed for SAP, to move beyond, make sure you're covering all the risk, And I'm a big fan of NIST cybersecurity framework where we have the different security functions, right?
Yeah,
The govern is the core. So the GRC is the core where you
cool.
define your policies, you define your controls. But those controls and those policies have to cover every aspect of the cybersecurity and the identity and access management, the SOX compliance, the SODs we do. It's just one piece of the pie. I think I did put like you have to solve the full, and you have to get the full pie, not just one piece of the pie. Raghu, so
That's what
thank
I
you. I think
told.
this,
It is less
yeah,
than 5% of the overall GRC.
yeah. And making it more proactive, right? Not like you're doing a quarterly or yearly and then you're figuring out what's going on, right? How do I stop the bad actor, the lateral movement right there, right? And not just limit GRC to the application layer. I know we move to cloud, we lose some control on some access on the different layer. I think, but the time is now to what is my risk, and then what different layer things can happen, the database and the operating system, the cloud, and whatnot, right? So we should be thinking in that perspective, not just saying, okay, I just build roles, I control SOD, I have a mitigation control, SOD is all good, we review it every quarter, right? That's I think we feel like we have been like happily okay, just doing the minimum, right? Minimum work to satisfy audit, and the time is now to go beyond that. And no better person leader who has written 3 GRC books and talking about the cyber as it should be, right? And GRC would play a critical role. Like you would define your controls, you would define your policies, you would do everything in the GRC, but then how do you solve other problems, the controls and the things you're talking? But thank you, Raghu. I think we would do a separate deep dive as we discussed, and if you promise, just on the GRC, maybe IG.
Yeah.
And I know there's this new cloud identity services piece where you can actually do a lot of conditionals access and the things you're saying, right? How do I control if you're logging from this location? We will kind of somehow block it, right? So
Correct.
there are, I think, ways now. It's just like do a customer if they're not even doing Yukon and RAL, do they even have maturity to even go that deep into those solutions, the things we SAP is offering today, right? So before I let you go for this episode, go. If somebody wants to reach out to you, LinkedIn is the right platform. I know you have a big fan following there. I believe that is the right platform to reach out to you. I know you
Yes.
have a company which you run, so we'll even love to know more about the work you have been doing there also. But any last thought before I let you go for today's episode?
No, I think I should really thank you for giving me this opportunity, Gaurav, for expressing my thoughts on GRC, because this is what I hear from people when I speak about GRC. Everyone's thinks that implementing SAP GRC or some kind of third party application solves the purpose. It is not an antivirus software, right? Which will just stop everything and then say, hey, you just update once in a week and then I'll be able to identify new threats in the or new viruses. That is not how SAP GRC or any GRC works. So my strong recommendation to people is that read between the lines, understand what actually GRC is and try to implement the right controls. No one is interested in a reactive control mechanism anymore. People wants proactive control mechanisms. It should be able to detect things in a right way, ensure that it is protecting your valuable business assets, and then you should be, as a GRC consultant, you should be part of protecting your organization rather than raising flags at the time where you see something is going wrong. So don't be a reactive guy, be a proactive guy, and then bring the best out of SAP solution. As I said, there are lots and lots of features SAP is building within the SAP system, within the SAP GRC. I just want to add like risk and assurance management, a new product from SAP which has been introduced. Is a fantastic solution, which is a combination of business integrity screening, you know, your partner screening. I mean, it has got a lot of capabilities from AC, PC, establishing your controls, and everything is a cloud-based applications. For organizations or enterprises who have implemented access control, my recommendation is have a look at risk and assurance management, have a look at cyber defense solutions. Definitely read through the books. I think we have spent a lot of time in putting our thoughts, our experience into the books, which will definitely add value. probably change your perspective, the way you look at things. Hearing to these kind of episodes will definitely help, but I would say reading through the book will add more and more value. So all my three publications are great publications that people can pick up. And again, Gaurav, I know you haven't told me, but then I'm endorsing it. Even I want to really pick up a copy, spend some time on what is that you have covered in your book. So it's not a endorsement that I'm doing, but I see a real need of such publications, and then ask all the readers or the viewers to really look at and make the best out of these publications.
Thank you, Raghu. I think we said maybe we should offer our books like as a I don't know, as a like these are the 3-4 books you should read, right? If you're somebody responsible for securing SAP, it's not just so GRC is key, but you have to go beyond, and we have to do both. What we do today, next to this, move to the next maturity. But yeah,
Correct.
thank you, Raghu. I know you have to, and this is late for you also. You have to run. But I think with the promise, we will again have you on our episode, CyberKriya. Maybe
Definitely.
next time we'll go deep dive on your book, if you can, like maybe reading through chapters and things like that. That's what we
Sure.
did for our cybersecurity book, like the different chapters, and so maybe that would be a good idea, Raghu, if you're open to it. And then, yeah, maybe the IG and the RAM thing you just mentioned, right? So I would love to go
This
deep dive in the
condition as well.
technical part of it in the next episode with you, Raghu. Thank you again
Would
for
love to
coming on
do
the
that.
show. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for what you do for our community, for our SAP security practice and the tribe. So, and you are the one of the key pillar for our community too. So, thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Gaurav.